In this video, we are going to talk about exponential functions and how to perform transformations on them. That is, shift up, down, left, right, and possibly even reflect it over the x and or y axis. So I'm going to remind myself of the parent functions of exponential functions. And this one right here is what's considered to be growth, right? I'm going up, left to right. I'm going to find that happening when my b value is larger than 1. And then my second one is going to be decay. I go down, left to right, and that happens when my b value is between 0 and 1, okay? The other thing to make notice of is this point on both of them where it crosses the y-axis. That is going to cross at the y value of 1, so the coordinates of 0, 1, that's where we start from every time. So when I apply my shifts and transformations to them, I'm going to do it from the point 0, 1. All right, so if I take a look at this first example here, I'm going to draw the parent function, right? I know this e value here, my b value, is in fact larger than 1. So I'm going to start at 0, 1, and I know I'm going to have growth because my b value e is larger than 1. And from here, I'm going to perform the transformations on it. So the -4, that's a pretty simple one. That's going to affect me vertically. So I'm going to take that point 0, 1, I'm going to move it down 4 units, right? So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I look at the +2, and since it's inside of my exponent, that's going to affect my x value. So that's going to move it right and left. We know that it is going to affect it horizontally, but it's also going to behave opposite from what it looks like. So one might think I shift that to the right 2, but again, since it's inside the exponent, I'm going to shift it to the left 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Now this point here, that is my new 0, 1 coordinate, and since I already established that it was growth, when I draw my curve here, I'm going to show that as being growth. The other thing to consider too is my new horizontal asymptote would be now down here at -4, so that is going to be my asymptote. And then our domain and range might shift a little bit. My domain is still going to be all real numbers because I can go right and left forever. But now my range, instead of being everything that's above 0, will be everything that's above -4. All right. So as we do our shifts and transformations, that domain and range may change a little bit. So take a quick look at that before you start answering any questions on that. All right. So now we're going to look at our new one here. We've got our new function f of x equals -e to the x minus 2 plus 1. Again, I have this e value, right? That is above 1. That negative right here is going to do something to it, but for now, let's just look at this e value of being above 1. So I know I'm going to have growth. So I'm going to sketch a real quick parent function here. And the curve is not necessarily hugely important. I just want to see that it's growth, and we want to know that it passes the point 0, 1. So now let's go do the same transformations that we did earlier. This +1 is going to shift it up 1, and this -2 is going to shift it right 2. So now I'm going to go up 1 and right 2. So here's my new coordinate there for that. And now I have exponential growth going like this. Now, the only thing we haven't taken care of right now is that negative number. That negative is just simply going to reflect it about the x-axis, but you got to remember I've taken that what was a horizontal asymptote of 0 is now at -1, so I'm going to flip it over that -1 line right here. So my new coordinate is just going to end up right here. And now, remember to reflection, so it's going to look something like this here. Now I can erase that line here that we drew a second ago. And there we go. We're going to have that blue line right there has been translated up 1, right 2, and then reflected about the x-axis. All right. So now let's go take a look at this one here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to notice is that b value is again above 1, so I'm going to have growth. So I'm going to sketch a quick version of that parent function, and again I have growth going left to right. All right, so for this example, I'm going to notice that my b value is larger than 1 again, so I'm going to have exponential growth. So if I sketch the parent function, I know it goes to the point 0, 1, and then I'm going to have a quick sketch of exponential growth because b is greater than 1. Then what I'm going to notice is this +1 is going to shift up 1 from my original y-intercept, so I'm going to be there. There is no number being added or subtracted to my x value, so there's no horizontal shift. However, this negative here in front makes it reflect across the y-axis. So instead of what would have been growth from this point is now going to be decay through this point. All right, so all I did was I flipped it from being growth to decay because of this negative here, and that is going to be a y-axis reflection. All right, we got one more to look at here. All right, so now in this one, the first thing I want to notice is I have a b value that is less than 1, so between 0 and 1. So what this is going to do is give us decay. So I know I'm going to continue to go through that point 0, 1, but now my function looks something like this. That would be my parent function, and it's this parent function that I'm going to transform. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this to be 1/2, and I'm going to factor out a -1 from my exponent here. I have a negative on the outside, so now I'm going to rearrange that again too. I got x minus 2 minus 4. So if you look real carefully, if I take this redistribute, I get negative x, which I have here, negative x. And then if I take the negative and redistribute the -2, I get the positive 2 here. So both of these two exponents are the same. I've just factored out a negative. That's going to help me see my transformations a little bit clearer here when we start to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I see this -4. I'm going to go down 4 units, and then I'm going to see this -2. I'm going to go right 2 units. So I'm going to go down 4, right 2. So from my original 0, 1, I go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1, 2. All right. So now then, here's my new point in what would have normally been decay. All right. I've got to notice this negative out in front of my exponent, which is going to give me a y-axis reflection. So it's going to turn my decay into growth. All right. So there are a ton of different ways and different functions that you can see. There's no way I can show you every possible situation or scenario. These are just the basics. Hopefully you can apply what we did in each one of those to different problems as we move forward. And like always, I hope this video helps, and we'll see you in the next one.